Welcome to the Clear to Send podcast, a podcast about wireless engineering, where we educate you on Wi-Fi technology, talk about design tips, troubleshooting, interviews, and the tools. Here are your hosts, Roel and Francois.
Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send podcast. I'm your co-host, Roel Dionisio, alongside with Francois Vergès. How are you doing?
Hey, Roy, I'm very good. How are you?
I'm great. We're actually trying YouTube Live for the first time on Clear to Send, streaming live one of our episodes, which is This Week in Wireless, which we're going to talk about a couple of things that have come up. For some reason, if my eye looks red, I've got something in my eye. It looks terrible.
It's okay. Do you know if we're live?
I don't actually. I pressed a button. I said, go live. It should be going.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
We'll figure it out, right? It's just one of those things that, I don't know. I could go to the live control room where I could see everything. Okay. People can put in their comments if they happen to be watching us. But other than that, we're just going live for the first time. You know, it's just we're just trying to do it.
Awesome. So let's just try to record as usual and see what happens.
Okay. Actually,
all right. So this episode we wanted to cover a couple of things that happened, this past week in the wireless world. A few things happened actually. It seems like the lockdown has its positive effects as well. A lot of people are doing webinars or announcing stuff. So we'll talk about a few things today. The first thing we wanted to talk about is Cisco announcing that they are now doing exam online. So you'll be able to take some of the exams from home, which is quite nice, I think.
Yeah, it's a big move because during this time, if you're watching this video later or listening to this audio later, it's because of COVID-19 and everyone's just staying home. So there's no chance to take an exam at one of these testing centers because of the concern about contracting it. But I think it's a good move for Cisco. It's a little bit different. You've got to have a quiet place to do your exam, and you need a webcam, which means somebody is going to be watching you. It's going to be some sort of proctor making sure you're not doing something like cheating and taking a test with the book wide open, right?
Yeah, I think it's a right move in the right direction, and I can see more and more people moving into online exams or online training, online everything, right? We've seen that it can work in most cases, right? So people are trying to take advantage of that. And like you said, it's going to minimize the fact of having transmissions of the virus. So in the coming month, it can be pretty useful. And also some people live very far from testing centers. Yeah. So for them, it would be very easy to just take it from home. I remember, I know I live in a city that's not that small. It's almost 500,000 people, but our testing center just closed.
Oh wow! Okay.
So if I want to take an exam, I have to drive about an hour and a half now to take an exam. So I remember the last exam I took. It was a CWNP exam. I actually took it when I was away for work in Belgium because they had centers everywhere over there. So I was like, I'm just going to plan it for when I go, and then I just did it like that, and it was just more convenient for me. So that's also helping the people that live far away from exam centers.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I'm really close to an exam center, maybe about 15 minutes away, but I kind of like the idea of taking an exam at home just because of the convenience, but then there's other things you got to take into consideration. So if you have a family, you just got to remember that they need to stay away from you while you take your exam. You could be preoccupied with other things as well if something comes up. But for the Cisco exams, it's pretty much every exam except for some of the there are some lab exams that you cannot take online, and they created a whole website just for this, talking about online testing for their Cisco CCNA exams, for example, even the DevNet exams. You can take that online. So the only ones that you cannot take online are the CCNT, the CCDE. I don't know about the other CCIE exams, but they list a couple of them that are on the exception list. But this is a good time to take an exam if you have the time to study, and if you want to take those new exams, this would be a great place to start.
And also something they're mentioning in their article is that they have extended all of their active certification for another 6 months. So if you were just, rushing to maintain your certification level and, recertifying yourself, you have another 6 months to breathe, which is nice.
Yeah.
I think everyone would appreciate that.
Yeah, because I knew a few people whose exams expired this month or even next month, and they were kind of concerned about what to do next, because if you can't get to a testing center, how do you renew your exam or your certification? And you don't want to just have that expire. So I'm glad Cisco was able to address that quickly. And there are other companies who are switching to online or have already been doing online exams. So we'll wait and see if CWNP maybe goes online as well. As far as I know, you still have to go to the testing center, but they were just kind of giving discounts for exam vouchers, but they haven't said, hey, we're also moving to an online format in order to accommodate some of these the concerns and the closures of testing centers.
Yeah, I mean, the CWNP also uses person view, so maybe it's technically speaking, it's possible to do it from them. So yeah, so we'll see what happens. That would be a nice thing.
For sure.
All right, moving on to the second piece of news we want to talk about. So we know that 6 gigahertz is pretty hot at the moment, right? So the FCC is in the process of approving up to 1200 megahertz of additional spectrum that we could use for Wi-Fi use. So Keith Parson has been working this week in updating his channel chart. So he shared on Twitter his advancement, and we'll put a link in the description. I think you can now download it as a PDF, and you can have the channels available in the 6 gigahertz band, and you can see the amount of spectrum that represents. If you compare that to 2.4, the change is drastic.
Oh yeah. For sure. If you haven't seen even just the visual of this, just to get an idea of how much spectrum we're getting, it's really great to see that we could get this. And the vote, I think, is happening just maybe 2 days after the day that we are recording this episode right now. So it's gonna be coming out pretty soon. We have expectations that it's just gonna pass, but we'll see what happens with the incumbents and whether or not they will kind of, I don't know, like challenge that vote for whatever reason. I mean, they do have the access to that spectrum. We're just going to be at a lower power for Wi-Fi, but we do have some upcoming episodes about 6 gigahertz to provide more information.
Yes, indeed. The 2 next episodes will be related to 6 gigahertz. So if you want to know more about it, feel free to check them out. You and I also participated to a webinar this week that was organized by Aruba or HPE, as we should say it. And it was Chuck Lukaszewski presenting a few news, background information on 6 gigahertz, and we got to ask our questions. So I will also put a link to that webinar so you guys can rewatch it. I think it was pretty interesting. And it was, Chuck pretty much opened the line for us to ask questions.
Yeah, I think these next 2 episodes are going to be really interesting for 6 gigahertz because we talked about the process of bringing 6 gigahertz to Wi-Fi. I mean, it is unlicensed, so it's not just for Wi-Fi, but we talked about some of the challenges that occurred there, the process that happens with the FCC and what that means for us, right? So it's really nice to see how that process gets laid out for 6 gigahertz. And what we can do is link to some documents that you could read and see what the FCC is saying from a process standpoint there. And when I was looking through these documents, there are a lot of documents, right? So this whole process took years to get to this point. And when you read these documents, you can see different viewpoints from different companies, right? So you got the incumbents who are putting in their comments and concerns. And then you have companies like HPE, Cisco, all the big Wi-Fi companies that are putting in their comments and their research into stating how this can happen with the incumbents and without creating any sort of interference to their equipment, because they do operate some really critical equipment over that spectrum.
Yeah, and I think it's fun to look at the back and forth between the two sides, and they each try to give their own, version of the story. We, like on the Wi-Fi side, we usually hear about the Wi-Fi guys wanting more spectrum. We need more spectrum if we want to have more applications, VR and all of that. But also, if you look on the other side of the fence, you have all these companies that are currently using that spectrum, and they have critical, like you said, fixed link, wireless links, and different services that they also want to maintain, right? So we're gonna need to make sure that's what the FCC is doing. Make sure that the Wi-Fi communication we're going to bring on this band are not going to affect whoever is already there. So it's a fascinating time. I think we should see a lot more coming from the FCC. Like you said, this week, the vote is on April 23rd, and that will move the momentum also in Europe. In Europe, they're also working on the stuff that should move in the coming years. So 6 gigahertz is definitely just the beginning for us. And we'll talk more about it in the coming actually the 2 next episodes we'll publish on the show.
Yep, for sure.
Something new, something else that happened this week. Apple released an iPhone, right? Just under the radar during the lockdown period, and they actually released a second generation of their iPhone SE. And why are we talking about it today? It's because it's pretty much using the same chip and internal as the iPhone 11, I believe, and so it features Wi-Fi 6. And the second big news is the prices starts at $399.
Yeah, right? This one's the iPhone SE, so it's the I guess a lesser capable iPhone, and smaller, but still with 802.11ax, and also with the better radios for LTE and LAA, CBRS, yeah. I believe so. I'm trying to find it there. Trying to look at the frequencies on its tech specs there. But yeah, it should be supporting it, because I know the last iPhone supported CBRS.
Yeah, I think, at this price, obviously on the consumer side, I think it's good for people that cannot afford, the iPhone 11 or cannot afford spending $1,000 for a phone, and they're locked into the Apple ecosystem. That's nice for them. But I think for the enterprise world, it's going to open a whole bunch of opportunities as well. Wi-Fi 6, $399 on an iPhone. You guys know you can put some applications. So you could put some, I don't know, like barcode scanner application. You could put some, any type of application that we could use in the enterprise space, and it becomes a very appealing product for enterprises as well.
Yeah, it does support CBRS. It is band 48, so it is listed there. The Wi-Fi 6 chipset there is a 2x2 MIMO, so it's at least going to have Wi-Fi 6. So I think we will see this transition to Wi-Fi 6 happen a lot faster than we did with the previous versions of Wi-Fi, because of manufacturers just pushing for it with their products. So I think we are going to see a lot of adoption here and a lot of upgrades in the next coming months.
Yeah, I agree with you. So this phone is I think it's going to ship in the coming weeks. So we'll see. We'll see if we start to see people using it and see how well it sells. But I think it's going to sell pretty well. Next piece of news is we got a little bit more information from the people from NetAli about their new AirMagnet coming back, the rebirth of AirMagnet. So they put a message on LinkedIn listing everything that will be included into AirMagnet, right? So AirMagnet is not really one product; it's more like a suite of products.
Right.
So what they're telling us is that it's going to include the Survey Pro application. So we'll have to see what that looks like. From the screenshot we're seeing, it looks like the previous version of AirMagnet Survey. So we'll see what's new really with this one. Then they have a Survey Express application. They have a Survey on Demand application. They have a Survey Mobile. They have a Planner application. They have a Spectrum XT application, and they have the Wi-Fi Analyzer Pro.
Yeah, so they're really taking a big leap here with AirMagnet and combining a lot of different applications to basically be a good competitor in this market, because right now a lot of us are using maybe one vendor, right? We all know who that is. That's going to be Ekahau. I use Ekahau. They've got a lot of this already built into theirs. And I know it was a lot of months back when they said that they are working on AirMagnet and that they would come back around October to announce. And so now it's April, right? And I guess they just went bigger. We'd be seeing what's new, which would be Planner. I think that's the new piece. I don't know what Survey Pro is going to be like in comparison to Express, but to me, that kind of sounds like either Pro would have a lot more features and Express is maybe for those who don't need to survey as much or don't need all those other features for simple surveys. And what I really want to see is just looking at the image that they're showing, and we'll send a link out, but it's on their LinkedIn page where you can learn more, is I hope we can tie in some of the handheld tools so that way if you've got a NetAli tool, you could kind of use that as maybe your survey or collecting device that gets all that information and tie that back into the application itself, and then being able to upload it to Linklife, for example. I think Linklife would have a tremendous feature set if we were able to utilize that, because then you could share that survey with other people or maybe potentially have a lot of these features just built into Linklife.
Yeah, I agree. So Linklife, for people who don't know what it is, it's kind of like the cloud platform where you can work as a team, collaborate. Every time you take some measurements on the field, it will try to automatically save the data back to Linklife. So I think it would be very valuable. Maybe the planner would be in Linklife. We'll see.
That would be really cool to see if it was just a web application. But the fact that those first three that you listed, Survey Pro, Survey Express, Survey on Demand, and also Survey Mobile, 4 different versions of doing a survey. I'd be curious to see what the differences are between each one and which one makes sense for many of us.
Yeah, and I think for the industry, it's nice to have them back. So we can have, nice competition between the different vendors, and it lifts everyone up. So we'll see what it's all about. The webinar is on, do you know?
I think it's
April 20th.
I think it's this week that we're recording this. So I'll definitely be tuning in because I'm excited to see what those updates are. NetAli is actually operating as a smaller company now, so they have a lot of wiggle room in terms of what they can do, what they're capable of, and what they can focus on. And so I'd be really interested to see what they come out with.
Yeah, exactly. So they actually came to the Mobility Field Day last August, and that's when they kind of announced the new startup feel and the new application and so on. So we'll put a link to those videos as well if you want to go back to the presentation of the new branding in NetAli.
Yep.
All right, so moving on. On the other side, I guess, of the survey application in Ekahau, it's actually a message that Sam Clements put on Twitter, and is showing that you could actually retrieve the transmit power that you have configured on a Cisco AP with the new version of AirOS that they came out with. And so now if you do your survey and then you go back to the list of APs, you can actually get that information in the RTFM view, right?
Yeah.
So that's a nice feature. You'll get it in milliwatts if you have your preferences set in milliwatts. If you change your preferences to dBm, you'll see that value in dBm. So it's very nice to be able to monitor or validate after the fact that the access point is configured properly.
Yeah, and I think one thing to note with this as well is Cisco's adding it into the AirMagnet information element. So you don't have to see it within Ekahau, I think, as well. You could probably just sniff some of those frames and be able to capture that and see what the individual power. So we could create a filter on that within Wireshark and create a column, and then you could see the different power settings for each access point as you're sniffing frames around the area. So I think that's a pretty cool feature. And just to note that it is in the information element, which means I think you need to have AirMagnet IE enabled on your access points within Cisco.
Yes. Really good point. It's coming from the AirMagnet IE that the Cisco AP will broadcast as part of their beacon frame if you have it enabled on your Cisco configurations.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Maybe it will give good ideas to the other vendors. That's not information you need all the time, but when you do your survey, it's very useful.
Yeah, I think it's good for surveys, for maybe troubleshooting, but I think most of the time people aren't really going to be looking for that.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so it's nice to have it in the AirMagnet IE because you could decide to enable, disable it when you do your survey or when you do a troubleshooting session, let's say, and you could see that information. If you leave it on all the time, it will just make the beacon frames bigger, use more airtime, and then give you a little less capacity on your Wi-Fi network.
Yeah.
This week last week, I guess now, you participated to a webinar with Ekahau on higher education, and I actually watched this one. It was a lot of fun.
You did? Yeah.
It was really well presented, and it was fun to watch. So you were not the only guest, right?
No, I wasn't.
Webinar. So you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, it was a really fun webinar to participate with Tani, Stu, and Kristen, who lives in Norway. So she manages a wireless network for a university there. And so we kind of had our discussions back and forth about the different complexities that happen in higher education, talked about some tips as I still scratch my eye here, which is bothering me. But it was a long discussion. I think it was even too short for an hour, but we could talk about something like this for hours and hours, right? So there's different things that are unique to my environment and unique to her. So we kind of offered our advice for all the different questions that came up, which were a lot of questions and a lot of engagement in the chat room. So I was trying to talk with people and also participate on video.
And I kind of like the new format of webinars from Ekahau, where it just, you have Tony and Stu asking some questions, and then you guys kind of going back and forth on the answer. It's less as a presentation mode as before, and I think you still get some valuable information. And plus, you can listen to the webinar as audio only.
Yeah.
And you still get the information. So that's really nice. I'm sure Ekahau will come with more webinar in this lockdown period. Yeah,
they should come out with more. And also it's a lot of good just back and forth discussion with Ekahau, and they also have a large audience. So I am friends with Tani and Stu. That was actually my first time speaking with Kristen, so I thought it went very well. And I think having more of these types of discussions and practical advice is really useful for people who probably don't follow a lot of people on Twitter, but maybe they just hop on to these webinars.
Yeah. And if you want to know how Roel sells his antenna installation tactics to the architects, you have to listen to the webinar. I think you already mentioned it on the podcast, but
yeah, I mean, it's
anyway. I'm
it's
just
interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting. I do it a couple of times whenever I know I'm going to have a challenging discussion with an architect. But you basically go in with what you want, and you just give them two options. So you don't want to give them the ultimate decision. You just want to give them two options. Go, which one do you want to go with, and then bring your worst looking one.
So they go with the one.
You want. Yeah. So.
Awesome. And Roel, you've been busy on YouTube as well this week. You released 2 videos. The first one was talking about the Ekahau Analyzer app, right? And the second one was talking about the Ekahau Capture application. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So being that we're stuck at home, I decided to try to make some YouTube videos as well, trying to educate others on what's out there. So I started with Ekahau since that's what I use the most, and I did a live stream on my YouTube channel on how I went through Ekahau Pro. And then I did another video with just looking at spectrum analysis, the app on the iPad. And then I did a separate one on how you could use Ekahau Capture to sniff wireless frames and open that up in Wireshark.
You want to talk about the behind the scenes and how you filmed?
I don't have someone to record me while I'm trying to set up like B-roll footage or I'm connecting things. So I took one of my, actually I have it right here. I took one of these things, which is to hold my phone. So my phone sticks to that, right? It's a little, I don't know what you want to call this, handheld device.
Tripod.
And then I take it and I put it into my shirt. And it records onto my desk. It has a view of my desk. So I just held that up.
That's perfect.
Quality production there.
Yeah. So you should go and watch those videos. And they're a little bit funny too. You try to do some acting.
It's my move into entertainment.
Exactly. And something we wanted to also talk about is that Chuck is on Twitter.
Yeah, right? Chuck is on Twitter.
Exactly. It used to be the joking, the running joke that Chuck is not on Twitter. So he's actually on Twitter. We'll put a link to his Twitter handle. And he's been talking a lot about 6 GHz. People have been asking a lot of questions, 6 GHz. So if you want to know a little bit more, you can just go and read his tweets. He tries to give some information, and you can just send him a little tweet and welcoming him to the Twitter community, I guess.
He openly acknowledges how it's difficult with his schedule to keep track of all the tweets that are going through. So he tries his best, and at least he's sharing some of the information, especially with the 6 gigahertz information coming out. So really appreciate what he's doing there, and hopefully he'll have more time to engage with people.
Yeah, he's been definitely active lately with the whole FCC announcement. So we'll see how it goes. Anything fun you working on this week?
I'm going to be working on documentation.
Okay.
So for work, I'm going to be creating some videos for some of the help desk guys in order to do some of the basic troubleshooting before kicking it up to the next tier level support. And then probably we're working on some more YouTube videos. That's what I'm going to try to work on.
Awesome.
How about you?
Making sure they don't call you for anything.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Oh, the network is down. Just send the ticket to Roel.
Yeah, let's look at this video on how to. How about you? What are you working on this week?
So I'm actually going to be teaching Ekahau ECSE design class online.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's going to be nice.
Okay.
So that's what I'm working on this week. I'll focus on that, I think. I've done some online teaching before, never the Ekahau class, so we'll see how it goes. But
it's the first time Ekahau's going online, right? And it makes sense. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, so you can actually attend the training for the time being online. So that's the ECC design class. So it's the same content, same duration, but you can just now follow it online. So that's pretty nice. So I'm excited about it. See how it will go, and yeah, that's what I'm going to focus on this week. We also have a podcast we're recording. Tomorrow. So you guys will know more about that in the coming weeks when we release them.
All right.
So we'll see if this YouTube live worked.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it did, but
I don't think it worked. So if you're watching this video or listening, we'll put a link to our YouTube channel as we try to figure out how YouTube live works. I hit live and apparently it didn't go live, even though it's telling me it's live.
All right. So we'll see. Maybe the next one.
Yeah, maybe the next one.
We'll try to do that.
All right, guys. We'll see you in the next episode. Check out the links for more in the description. I think... What episode are we on? cleartosend.net/216. All right. Yeah. So if you want to learn more about the news, that's where you can go to find out more. If you have any questions, let us know on Twitter @cleartosend or in the comments as well. But thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.